Guns remain a hotly debated political topic in the United States. It is possible that the quantity of guns outnumbers Americans, but there are no exact figures on gun quantity because they are durable goods and can remain in working condition for a long time. Rather than counting the number of guns, this video analyzes the economic demand for guns and some public health outcomes. Looking at gun manufacturing and background check data from the last 30 years, this video illustrates two forces that drive gun sales in the United States: safety concerns and, counterintuitively, calls for gun control. While determining the number of guns in the U.S. is difficult, there are two publicly available data sources. First, gun manufacturers are required to annually report production intended for both domestic and foreign markets to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. These data also provide the number of imported guns from foreign manufacturers like Glock in Austria and HS product from Croatia. These data allow us to count gun production intended for sale in the United States each year by adding non-exported American gun production to the amount of foreign inputs. Between 1986 and 2015, nearly 200 million guns were produced for sale in the United States. Given the durable nature of most firearms, it is not surprising that some estimate that there are currently more guns than Americans. But more interesting are the two noticeable blips in gun production. The first occurs between 1993 and 1995, where gun production increased by over 50% compared to the average in the previous 6 years. The second blip begins around 2008 and continues until the end of this sample. Between 2011 and 2015, an average of 12.4 million new guns were produced for sale within the U.S. So what happened during these periods? Surprisingly, it may be gun control. The Brady Handgun Violence Protection, or Brady Bill, had been discussed in Congress since 1991, but wasn't implemented as law until early 1994. The Brady Bill implemented a background check and waiting period for firearms purchase, and it is likely that gun buyers wanted to beat this legislation or were concerned that stricter legislation was forthcoming. The second blip is timed with the election of the next Democratic president, Barack Obama, and really accelerates during 2012. By this time, the country experienced a wave of tragic mass shootings. After each of these events, Obama gave impassioned calls for gun control, but was unable to enact legislation during his presidency. While Obama's pleas for gun control likely influenced sales, the prevalence of these mass shootings probably also increased gun sales for those seeking protection. To investigate this further, we can use data from the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, or NICS. This program began in 1998 and instantly performs background checks required in the Brady Bill, but without the waiting period. Those wishing to buy a firearm from a licensed dealer must complete this background check, which asks questions about criminal history, drug use, and mental health issues. The ATF processes roughly 25 million NICS requests each year and denies less than 1% of these. In mid-2016, the New York Times found that gun sales, as measured by the number of NICS requests, spiked during 1. Calls for gun control, and 2. Mass shooting events. Not only do calls for gun control increase gun sales, but so do relaxations of gun control laws. The New York Times found that a 2007 Missouri repeal of a mandatory permit for handguns led to an increase in monthly sales by 9,000 guns. Another research article investigates the effect of mass shootings on the number of NICS background checks, essentially connecting mass shootings to gun sales. This article finds that a mass shooting increases net gun sales by over 100,000 guns in each of the following 2 months after a mass shooting. Further, this impact doubles if it is believed that the motive of the shooter was influenced by an international source like ISIL or Al-Qaeda. Donald Trump was inaugurated in 2017 and has been considerably less vocal about gun legislation compared to Obama. Correspondingly, the NICS data show that gun sales dropped in 2017 in all 50 states, even though 2017 set a record for mass shootings in the United States. This graph indicates potential gun legislation has a greater influence on gun sales than threats to safety. Nearly any publicity for guns, whether positive or negative, sells even more guns. This makes any push for gun control difficult, since it would likely increase gun sales significantly. And what about the argument that the quantity of guns is irrelevant, no matter how large? After all, the vast majority of gun owners purchase firearms for hunting or protection. This question is harder to address with the data, but researchers have established one connection between guns and an important measure of public health: the suicide rate. American suicide rates have steadily increased since 2000, and several research papers find a strong correlation between suicide rates and gun availability. The Washington Post published an article investigating suicides from 2014. Firearms were used in roughly half of all suicides, and if the United States had gun ownership rates similar to other developed countries, there would be at least 10,000 fewer suicides in that year alone. In summary, gun legislation is complicated and in the short term may produce the unintended consequence of increasing gun availability and therefore suicides. However, the public health aspect of this debate is important. Thanks for watching.